this is really interesting that I wanted to talk to you about really quickly and I just had that conversation with Danny about it. When you played at the Marlin in Ulladulla and I came, I got so drunk.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
I
and
didn't
so
remember.
now I'm not drinking, right? I haven't
Right.
drank for the whole last year.
But that would have been appropriate at the Marlin.
It was appropriate at the Marlin, but I remember like you saying to me, like at that show, I was like, oh, do you want to drink? And you were like, oh, no, actually, I'm not drinking. But you said it in such a way where it was like so pure and non-pious about your relationship with booze that it actually triggered me even more.
To not drink?
No, to be like...
To drink more?
Fuck this guy, I'm going to drink now. Like, because of my own relationship with booze at the time. But it was also like a very big point in me realizing that it was time for me to stop drinking.
Right.
Because and then the same thing happened with Ziggy Alberts in Canada in 2023 because we played the same festival and like I went on stage with him and then I played my slot and I got pissed after it. And then the next day I woke up sick as a dog and it took me like 3 weeks to recover. And in
3 weeks?
In those, yeah, I was just like super burned out from touring.
Oh, yeah.
And drinking.
Yeah.
And then I watched him go and do an entire tour through the US perfectly fine. And I was like, I got to stop drinking. Got to get my energy right.
Yeah. Oh, Ziggy's got so amazing, Ziggy, isn't it? Like he's worked out a lot of stuff while he's still young. Took me a long time to work that stuff out.
Well, it feels like the same for me. Like, because I played my first show with Ziggy when I was 20. I'm 33 now. Yeah. So he was like, oh, maybe actually I was like 22 and he was 20.
Right.
And we played like a small show in my hometown in a little like venue that's not there anymore. And I just remember even then he had a beer, but I could tell then that he was almost done with drinking. Like his relationship to it, like he was barely wanting it. And one thing I thought was so fascinating about watching him even back then was how willing he was to get uncomfortable. Because I remember watching him in between his songs talk for like a long time about whatever was to do with the next song that he was playing. Like he was working on his banter then. And I could tell then how uncomfortable he was, which he's not anymore because of all that work that he did back then when he was a kid. And me at the time, I was like, fuck that. I'm drinking and I'm going to be a hero and a rock star.
Yeah.
And I chose booze to make myself feel more comfortable to do what he was just actually doing. And it's just so fascinating, you know, because I learned much later. And I actually talked to him about this. I was like, dude, you were onto it at such a crazy young age.
Yeah.
Like getting comfortable in your uncomfortable places.
He's a good advert for homeschooling. He like came out different, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was onto it
Fully.
from the start.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, everybody's got a different journey. Like, talk about that alcohol thing.
Yeah.
Like, when so then, you know, me, so like, what am I? I'm like 48 now. So I'm like a full, how old did you say you were? 32?
33 now. 34 this year.
So I'm 15 years older than you? Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So, oh my God, in the blue seat in Melbourne and just, I don't know, it was just different. It was even a different era again.
Yeah.
And it was way more boozy.
Oh, yeah.
And way more, you know, smoke a joint in the set break. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And whatever, it was just a different culture.
Yeah.
And, and I started in the era when everybody was smoking inside cigarettes and stuff as well.
Yeah.
It was just like...
Did you smoke as well?
Oh, I did then.
Yeah.
And I didn't even grow up or like wasn't even... It was the environment.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that was the funny thing.
Yeah.
You just like...
It wasn't something you did alone.
No, it would just... It just was... You'd get to a gig...
Yeah.
Go get a packet of ciggies, throw them down on the bar, get a beer, and then like say that's if you're watching someone else, and then away you go. Your night's ready to go.
Yeah. It's so wild, isn't it?
Yeah, so I can remember when they made you like when they stopped smoking in Australia in venues, and I was like,
yeah.
it'll kill live music.
Oh, yeah, really?
I was anti it.
Oh, my God.
And then, like,
That's
after a
crazy.
while, that happened. And my mum used to come watch me at the corner.
Yeah.
And it's like the corner, everyone's smoking there.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
How
It
old
just-
were you
and she
at that
was,
time?
I was probably about 25. Because I kind of started in music a little later.
Yeah.
I was probably about 25. And I thought my mum was she doesn't drink or smoke or anything. And she's like, oh, I like seeing your gig, but it's too much smoke. And I used to think, what's she carrying on about?
Yeah.
It's like 600 people smoking in a room.
Crazy.
And I look back now, because then after that, Australia stopped, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay then.
Yeah.
And then I went to Europe, and they were still smoking, and I was like on stage, and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
and I realised that's the best thing ever.
It's the best. I'm so bad now.
Yeah.
I'll smell it. Someone from like across the street, and I'll be like, it's disgusting. Can't believe that people still smoke. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's a good example of like how times change, and I do think it's a little bit like that with the drinking. Like, I don't begrudge anyone who's digging in, having a good time, and there are good things about it.
Yeah.
But for me, and that's why I hope that time when you were getting slaughtered,
No, I
you
didn't feel like that.
any judgment
No,
from me, because
not
I'm
at all.
like, I don't drink because I've been there maybe even more than you. So
Yeah.
who would I be to judge and judge
Yeah.
anyone for doing it? But I know for me, in my own circumstance, it was like old and tired and lame,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did feel like that, and I used to feel like that when I was hooking in and the young support acts were coming through, like a new generation doing well and just not.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, geez, people are so on it these days.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
It's almost like cheating if you're like Ziggy comes through and he just doesn't. It's like, oh, that's an unfair advantage to be like together, business-like a little bit, and more. It's better for your art too.
Yeah.
Like when Kelly Slater came through in the 90s.
He was
and
so
he was
clean, wasn't he?
He was the only guy not getting slaughtered the night before the surf comp. It's like he's
Wow.
cheating
Yeah.
because he's not doing it, and it was just socially completely unacceptable to do what he was doing, and he was just doing it, and then he's beating everyone, and then they start to think,
Yeah.
shit,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe I should take this more seriously.
Yeah.
Times change, I guess.
Yeah. So what do you think about the music industry now? Okay, well, this is my question is, if you could have any further developments now for the music world that you think would benefit it in a positive way, which I've got my own thoughts on, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Like, how could you see things moving in a positive direction in the music landscape now for artists and the industry?
Wow, that's a huge question.
It's a huge question. I know, I've just put you in a...
I love the question. It's a good question for musicians.
For you especially, because you've been through so many different times, like the CD era and up to now.
Yeah, I'll do the quickest recap I can of what I went through being in that same era as...
Yeah.
My quick recap is that technology actually really helped my generation coming through in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And mailing lists were coming through on... Because the first mailing list I ever heard of was actually physical.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
would mail the mailing list
Oh
out.
my gosh, that is crazy.
Yeah, so that was in the 90s. I heard about a band and I was like, that's the go, that's what you got to do.
Oh my
You've
gosh.
got to mail out a mailing list. And then,
Get everyone's literal home address.
and make
name.
it, photocopy it, send it out.
Wow.
And then I did never get into that, but like that era of the Waves, John Butler, Xavier Rudd, all those kind of bands
Yeah.
coming through.
Yeah.
They had, it was all about, okay, bring a clipboard to the gig
Yeah.
and get everybody's email address
Yeah.
on. And that was a game changer.
Yeah, yeah.
And then on top of that, we could make our own album and we could sell it. And we could manufacture a CD, and like once you had it recorded, which you could do pretty cheap already by then,
Yeah.
you could use Pro Tools on a computer, and then you could get it out, and it was $2 a copy
Yeah.
to make a CD, to manufacture a CD, and then you could have a distribution deal
Yeah.
instead of a record deal that had been ripping people off, and then you'd get $11 a copy.
That's insane.
And people used to sell so many albums.
Yeah.
Like, especially John and Xavier and the
$11,
Waves at
yeah.
$11 a pop to them.
Insane.
I think Jack Johnson was the first one who he stayed independent and he sold gazillions.
Oh my gosh.
And it was unheard of.
Yeah.
And we were all just saying, we don't need to get ripped off anymore.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And actually, the one who really made me think of that was Matt McHugh from the Beautiful Girls
Yeah.
when I interviewed him for my book.
Yeah.
And he made me realise, wow, our generation, actually, we were so lucky.
Yeah.
Because we had access to an audience, you had an internet.
Yeah.
We could make stuff cheap
Yeah.
and we could sell it. And that was
For a good markup.
for a huge markup.
Like the
and,
CDs.
Yeah. And we were finally... Artists had a little band there where we were free from the shackles that were imposed by record companies. Record companies were the bad guys to us.
Yeah.
And distribution companies worked hand in hand with you.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. And even me, I was lower down than those guys in terms of I didn't have any really big hits or anything.
Yeah.
But I was getting played on the radio on Triple J and all that kind of stuff. And it was really good. And I sold a lot of albums and it was really awesome.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to, I guess, around 2010 or something, as the technology of the physical product left and things went to streaming, that's when everything went really downhill, like for artists in terms of making money from recording. And what is it you get now? Like,
it's
$4,000 for a million?
0.007 cents per stream. So
Yes.
yeah, it is. It's like 4K a million streams.
Yeah, and a million streams for people listening to this. It's not easy to come by a million streams.
Not at all. No.
Yeah.
100%.
Every million, you feel like you work really hard for every million.
Yeah.
And, a lot of it... And I heard the CEO of Spotify say, you can record an album for free these days. And it's like, easy for you to say, brother. Like,
and it's not true.
It's not
the
true.
amount of skills that you would be required to know, even on the mixing front.
Yeah, why
of a
should you be a
record.
professional engineer?
Yeah.
And, I've known how to record myself
Yeah.
for probably 20 years.
Yeah.
And I've never really, maybe one song here or there at the end of an album, I've never trusted myself to be the one to get that finished product there because there's other people who spend all their day doing that. I spend all my day playing,
100%. Yeah.
And that's how it should be. And those people
Yeah.
who record you and stuff, they should be remunerated for their work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they should be remunerated for their work. So I think it would be really healthy. I don't know if it would ever happen.
Yeah.
And for my own career, I don't agree with bemoaning change. Like, almost this little history lesson has been it ends up as a bit of a whinge, but that's not how I approach my career.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
I'm all for looking forward and seeing the new opportunities.
Yeah.
So for an artist, I don't know. I pray for the time that scarcity comes back how it did a little bit with a physical thing where somebody says, I bought the thing.
Yeah.
So maybe actually in the NFT crypto kind of that rough space, and we won't get into the intricacies of that, but there is the opportunity there where you can create digital scarcity, you can do one-of-a-kind things, collector's items.
Yeah.
Maybe in that space, somebody will crack the code so that music can be worth a little bit more, because it is worth a lot to people.
Yeah.
And I actually think people, if you give them an easy way, I think they do want to pay for their favourite artists. Anytime I've done a crowdfunding thing or anything like that, which has not been very often, but anytime I ever ask my audience for anything, they just give it to me. Like, they just say, I'll have people who they'll buy a guitar lesson or something, and I'll say, okay, when do you want the guitar lesson? No, I just wanted to give you some money.
Yeah, yeah.
Things
I know what
they
you mean.
want to give. If your music means something to people, they want to help you out. So, but I don't want to rattle the...
Of course, the tin.
The tin,
Yeah.
and, live gigs are going well and stuff, so I think, oh, well.
Yeah, no, I hear that.
But it is a shame because you think, I would love to sit at home for longer.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love songwriting, I love recording, but for me, the financial incentive when I have a family. And,
Yeah, you got to play the shows.
Yeah, and if I want to kill it,
Yeah.
I'll just go out and gig.
Yeah.
So then that makes my creative output lower.
Yeah.
Because I've been incentivized to do it a different way. So I think there's room for a change there, and it would be awesome to see.
Yeah. So I am talking to this company that I spoke to you about actually back in the day, but they're called Unreleased Art.
Mm.
And I'm going to launch my own campaign on this platform after this next single release to basically, because this is everything that you've said is exactly how I've been feeling. And over the last year, having my own label, I've released music for not only myself, but for like 5 other artists. And I can see all the stats on Spotify for artists. And I've been watching them and just analyzing them and getting my mind across it. And across the board for all of these artists, they're getting a really solid amount of organic people listening to their music. And maybe they'll get 15,000 listens on a new song in 2 weeks. And if you look at that out of the lens of Spotify and just in a general sense that their song has been streamed 15,000 times in 2 weeks, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of people.
It's
Imagine them at a gig.
Exactly. And but because of Spotify, we just automatically, immediately, and I'm not ripping into Spotify right now. I actually use it all the time myself. It's incredibly useful.
Great for the user.
It's great for the user. Yeah, exactly. As a listener.
For the listener, it's fantastic.
Yeah. And I think it has a place in this world. Obviously, it definitely has a place. But I feel like getting down about 15,000 streams, because the reality is that's literally like $30.
Yeah.
Is crazy when you look at it like that.
Yeah. And
so you've spent, most of these artists, like producers and mixers combined, charge cost to make a song is like $1,500, $2,000 for a finished product, for a good quality song.
Oh, yeah.
To make $30 back on it.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks.
And then somebody says, well, if you want more streams, do a Facebook ad.
Exactly.
Pay more.
Spend more money to the other tech company.
Yeah.
So this is where it's made me think exactly what you're saying, which is when you give people an opportunity who love you already and genuinely appreciate the art that you're giving to the world, when you give them a chance to give more, usually they're willing to do it.
Yeah, often.
And so that's where I think it's exciting to see new platforms emerging, like what I'm going to say about Unreleased Art. And the whole idea behind Unreleased Art is you give an exclusive community access to a record before it's publicly available on Spotify.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to put this whole album out on Unreleased Art, and then there's different like amounts that you can pay $5 to listen to the whole record, or you can pay $10 to get some breakdown videos, for instance, on how I produced the songs, because a lot of people that follow my journey now are aspiring artists who want to know how to make music more themselves. And it's using the blockchain technology. So
Awesome.
There is a cap to the community. And then once it reaches the cap, someone else has to buy in. So the value of not only what you're giving to the artist, you actually are holding a certain value depending on the success of the product on that platform. And then if you do a new record, then it starts again. Hey guys, you're the real people. You're the people I make my living off. So you should have here's my opportunity to you to get something special and give more, to allow me to have more time to create on a bigger level.
That's awesome.
If we were all doing that, even if you had a record on there and I paid in to get access to that, that's something that I want to do, is pitch this to all of the other artists, because the reality is in Australia, unless you have an enormous amount of streams, Spotify doesn't work.
No.
I've been on Coffee and Chill, the biggest Australian editorial platform, for the last 3 songs I released. And I've made about $2,000.
Yeah. For $6,000 of recordings or more.
Yeah. And I'm in the best position you could get in.
Yeah.
From a playlist sense.
Yeah.
And that's how much I'm making from it.
Yeah.
And
what did you say? $2,000 of the whole lot?
About $2,000, yeah, so far. And so that's and the other problem with that is that algorithmically, because it's an Australian playlist, I've been more geo-locked into the Australian territory, which is a small amount of listeners. So, like, I'm not getting the US. My radio plays are not going to people in the US. It's going to people in Australia. So I'm heavily locked in Australia, which means that my streaming community is even less, which means I make less money. But, like, if you've got 3 million monthly listeners, you know, you're doing well.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm from talking to Kyle McAvoy, who runs all of my stuff through the distributor STEM and puts all of my stuff on those platforms. Like, he's telling me how much money artists that he's working with in the States are making through Spotify in that sense. But you have to be enormous to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be big. Really
it's
big.
stopping us, smaller independent artists, which therefore is not only making the incentive to play more live shows, but it's also making more incentive for you to just want to be famous.
Yeah, and do lamer things, and be so niche.
Yeah, and then where's the time to be focused on just making legitimately beautiful art for the world? If you just care about being famous.
Yeah, I've heard the saying before in many internet-related things: "Preach to the converted."
Yeah.
So, or preach to the choir, they say. Like, so, like you know, and I try to remember that. And yeah, it's like,
what do you think that means to you?
So what that means to me is, like, make music to the people who love you.
Yeah.
And don't keep making music as outreach to be something that you're not, or to be... I mean, it's complicated because, you know, I love mixing it up, and I think when I've done crossover stuff, it's some of the best stuff I've done. But what you're saying goes with that for me, which is, like, there's people that, especially for me having a long career, there's people who've been loyal to you, be loyal to them, and forget everybody else.
Yeah.
And then you can, over time, if you've got a hardcore audience, and then over time, you know, that grows at a rate of, 10% every year, or 3%, of just hardcore people, but they actually pay you more than, like, if you were, because they're really into it, then if you were, like, trying to spread out to the whole world and they all give you 1/5 of a cent once a year.
Yeah.
And it's really tangible. Because, you have that other thing with Spotify where you have artists who are absolutely massive on Spotify, but they go to do a live show and no one turns up.
Crazy.
Yeah. Because their audience is so dissipated and they're not connected.
Yeah.
And also, I have the thing, I'll walk into a cafe, this must be some kind of an old guy thing, actually, because I'll hear something and I'll go, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I say to the person in the cafe, oh, what's this? This is so good.
Yeah.
And they're like, they look at me like so weird and just be like, I don't know, it's just on a playlist.
Disconnect.
Yeah,
that's a passive...
I don't know artists, I just put a playlist on.
Oh, no, dude, that's...
And then I go, when they say it's just on a playlist, I go...
Yeah.
Because you don't care. And the technology back in the day made people care, because you bought Hein Cooper and you took it, and, I've heard old people say this, I didn't listen to them at the time. They talk about vinyl, oh, you got it out, you looked at it, blah, blah, blah. They'd say all these things.
Yeah.
And I always thought, but times have changed, haven't they? But actually now I get it.
Yeah.
Because it's just, it wasn't anything special people were doing back in the day. It's just that the technology made them take more notice.
So true.
And the technology drew you into this precious thing. People would get an album and, let's say, go back to the record, the vinyl, and they would take it into their room, or later in life they'd have a special room that had a record player in. They'd put it on, and then they'd go on a beanbag or something, and then they'd listen to it.
Oh, my gosh.
Whereas I don't really feel like playlists, they don't really lead you to that.
No, and they also, and I can literally see it from the data, they don't translate to a more growing audience. A lot of the time, as much as you would assume that they would based on their reach, because it's so passive. It's like, oh, we just put it on in our cafe. I'm just going to make sure this is still recording. Still going, that's great. And this is recording too.
I got this legend of a friend that I've met through music, and I hope to connect with him again at some stage and maybe get him recording. He's Tibetan.
Oh,
And
whoa.
his name's Tenzin Chogyal, and he makes...
Whoa, what a name.
Yeah.
Tenzin Chogyal.
He's a legend.
Yeah.
And he makes very traditional music.
Yeah.
And I was talking
For Tibet.
It's Tibetan music,
Yeah.
And he said, I won't try and do his accent, but he said to me in his very cool, like, Buddhist-y kind of way, we were talking about albums, and he said, I hope you won't put your next album on Spotify.
Dude, this is...
And I was like, what?
This is the dream right here.
Yeah.
How baller would it be if you had built up another thing that you thought was more sustainable and served you as an artist better, and you drew enough of your people to that platform that you could actually say, this next one is just for you guys.
And he said to me, oh, well, and I said to him, because I knew other musos who were older,
Yeah.
who hadn't put stuff on Spotify, and I always thought, they just don't get it, they're old school.
Yeah.
That they're just shooting themselves in the foot. Now no one knows their music.
Yeah.
But he was like, he talked me through it.
Yeah.
And he made me understand. And he said, it might work out all right for you because you're selling a lot of copies and you have a lot of listeners, but it doesn't work out for me. And then he said, if the only place they can get the music is at your gig, they're more incentivized to come to your gig. And I went, oh my God, I forgot.
Crazy.
Because we used to have this cycle of like CD launch.
Yeah.
And it used to be a huge deal.
Yeah.
And like at your launch, you expect to have like double the people you'd have at a normal gig. Now for me, everything's a normal gig. And I'm putting out singles all the time.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, so imagine, I've got this new song, you're previewing it on socials, but you can't get it unless you turn up to the gig. Or you might have that alternative platform. You can get it on this platform, or you can turn up. But the flip side is, now any friction, like if in my dealings, like I could have a bill I need to pay, but I go to pay it and it's going to cost me the earth if I don't pay the bill.
Yeah.
But I've got a little bit of friction, it's sort of not working out on the app. I'll end up getting that, me personally, I'll end up getting that fine doubled or something because any friction in my life, I'm busy and I can't be fucked.
Oh, yeah,
and
true, yeah.
any friction, I won't do it.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. That the flip side of this is there's no friction with Spotify. It's achieved the network effect.
Yeah.
Whereas
you have to
if
be
you give
conscious.
them friction, they're going to have to put in.
Yeah.
And so what we need is a solution that is as frictionless as possible.
Yeah.
But it does reward the artist. And I don't know where that is yet.
So you're saying basically that as soon as you have to put any effort in to something new, to a certain degree, most people are just going to be like, oh.
They're too busy.
Like, I don't have time for this, yeah. Like,
they don't have time for anything.
Spotify is just so built into our conscious lifestyle these days where it's like, if I want to go listen to something, I just go put it on there, boom, done.
Most people who have an iPhone hate their iPhone. They say, why do I pay $2,000 for this thing?
Yeah.
I know there's a better alternative, and next model I'll move to Samsung.
And
they say it for a decade.
Yeah.
And I'm like that because they're like, but what if I do? Well, fuck it. I'll get one more. Yeah. This is my last iPhone.
Yeah.
Apple shares, they created the iPhone. It was amazing.
Well, isn't Render, the coin, the Bitcoin, I know we're going into new territory, but isn't that backed by Apple as well?
I don't know. I don't know.
Sorry.
But,
yeah.
But their business model is what we're talking about. They're like, we've achieved network effect. Yeah. Let's just keep doing the same shit. Let's not innovate pretty much. We're Apple. Well, we don't need to.
Yeah.
And I've been like, I've been thinking, I like to think about these things. The users should punish them for not making something like way better if they're going to charge way more.
Yeah.
Somebody ought to do that. But I'm not going to because I'm too busy.
Yeah.
So that's the flip side of our thing. We have to try and make it, like, for example...
as easy as possible, basically.
Yeah.
As effortless.
So what I was going to say is if it, for example, if it uses the blockchain or if it uses NFTs in the background, whoever's listening to this may know those terms and be all about it, or they might not. They might start rolling their eyes when they hear those terms. What I think it should be is no one even realizes what technology.
Yeah.
When
It's not even part of it. It's like, yeah,
Click.
Click. It is like that.
Oh, good.
It's really like click, Apple Pay, done.
Oh, great.
So
I'm in.
It's super functional, and if you're interested in knowing more about it, you can discover that it uses the blockchain.
Yeah, but it's not like, because do we know what protocol? I've heard this said about blockchain technologies, and I think it's true. When you click on a website, you know that's using like fucking TSIP, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You don't know what rail it's on
No,
or what pipes that's going through. You don't care.
Yeah.
And that's how, if these new things. What's that called again? That you're talking about?
Unreleased art.
If unreleased art works like that, well, I'm in, because
Yeah.
click.
Yeah. I
You
really
know?
like the idea of it, and like the thing that scares me though is, and I'm very set on doing this because I actually do believe that moving forward we got to preach to the converted and give pretty much as possible of our energy as artists to our real people, giving them a platform. The thing that scares me is that if I put it up on this platform, is Spotify going to go, oh, you've already released it now, even though it's called unreleased art and technically it's an exclusive community, you've already released it, so now we're not going to ever put you on another playlist? Or, how is ARIA charts going to react? Like, this, like, how are they all going to recognize this new technology? And they, there's a certain amount of people that like the way that things are. You got to remember that as well.
Well, here we go. I'm not saying I'm going to do this, and I'm not saying that I'm ready for this move.
Yeah.
But the ballsy move is to say, as let me say it this way, independent musicians, we have the allure of the industry.
Yeah.
And we want to be recognised by the industry. And I've just noticed every time that me, as somebody who already has a bit of a profile and some audience, every time I just preach to my fans, preach to the converted, I just do things for my fans, I just go out there and gig,
Yeah.
I just do what I do really well.
Yeah.
But when I 5 years will go by and I'll get a bit unconfident, and that's working well, and then I say, oh, I want to be bigger, and then I try to get recognised by the industry. And do things. It costs you money.
Yeah.
It costs you the earth.
Yeah.
To be recognised, and somebody selling you the carrot of, oh no, I'll get you on this and I'll get you on this play.
Yeah.
Now it's playlists. It used to be other things, radio, blah blah blah,
magazines or whatever.
Yeah. Those things used to always cost, and now there's new things that cost, and there's new little there's new in between people in between that thing you want.
Yeah.
They insert themselves there and promise it to you and
charge you a fortune.
Rarely deliver it. But are you
So
strong
true.
enough to walk away and say, okay, my ego doesn't need that. I can't be sold, because musicians get sold to.
Yeah.
I can't be sold to anymore. I'm just going to go for what's genuine between me and the audience, and it might look, from the outside, it might look small. That's the scary thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to look small. I want to look bigger than I am. But it might look small, but only you and the audience know what's really going on. And maybe you're killing it. And nobody... It's like you're killing it, but you don't buy a Ferrari. You just go around in a little Nissan, whatever.
Yeah. But you have freedom. You're making the art you want.
You're living your dream.
Yeah.
It's just the ego metrics aren't there. So can we move away from that? I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to walk away from Spotify. No, I don't know.
It's not as much ego for me. It's fear of being able to make it abundant, like a lifestyle.
Like bigger.
Because for me, like in my
it'd be
position,
too small.
Well, yeah, because the record that I've just done, with the song that we've got, I got a grant.
Yeah.
And it helped me enormously.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Pay for all of the mixing, all the mastering, all the things. And I ultimately don't think I could have made it anywhere near the quality that it has become without that grant.
Yeah.
So, to a certain degree, I'm still in a position where it's growing and building, and it's not carrying to the degree that I would like it to be carrying, so that I don't have to rely on grants and things like that. So for me, I'm scared of, there's a fear of not being able to make it without those things. So it's not so much an ego thing for me of like my image. It's more a fear of cutting off the legs I'm walking on.
Yeah. And life's complicated. Like when I said that ego thing, it's not necessarily that all we're trying to do is succeed at our career.
Yeah.
I guess, but I meant it's the visual, like, it's probably a cruel way to characterize it to say ego. It's I guess what I'm talking about is, are you ready for it to look smaller? Like it. Here's a good example of the complexity. Maybe that's not the right thing, and that's not the right thing for you. Maybe you need more outreach. You need to be in the mainstream things that have got mass adoption, and but you are a slave.
Yeah,
if you're
playing on their rules.
Just be aware that if you are working like we all are with that mainstream platform, and you want to be on that big stage, that you're in the way they've tweaked this model back to be how it was before that 2000 CD thing. Yeah. We had a brief moment, like I said before, where the musos were empowered and they were killing it. And they were sort of sticking it to the music industry. Yeah. And now that's over. Yeah. It's come back. I do think the music industry
It'll come back
is
again.
getting smaller as well. Yeah. They've been overtaken also by tech companies.
Yeah.
And now it's become just a technocracy. And it's tech companies that are running it. Yeah. So it's not the big bad record company; it's the big bad tech company. And I guess, it's complicated. And are we all ready? Because I want my Spotify numbers to be up. Yeah. And I want a festival to see that. Yeah. And book me. Yeah. And all those things. Am I ready to go? Well, whatever. Yeah. And then it's like saying whatever to all of the spoils of mainstream success, which could include, if you want to go overseas and kill it, then you need them to see those metrics. Yeah. So it's quite complicated. I totally get that. Yeah. But I mean, especially the other thing to ask yourself, not you, but anyone who's listening to this, if you're really a really small artist, am I going to achieve wide adoption on Spotify? We think the dream of that's good.
Well, yeah, no, totally.
And you have had big hits on Spotify, so that's different. But say somebody hasn't.
At the beginning of Spotify.
Yeah, which it was more independent.
When they were like, they needed you. Yeah. Because they were trying to get everyone over at that point.
Yeah, and also like, for people to understand, I saw this great YouTube clip that explained it, and I haven't looked into this deeply, I must admit, but that Spotify got all of the major record companies to become shareholders. Yeah. So therefore, that incentivized them to make more money for the platform and less money for the artist. Yeah. So sell out the artist, and our share price goes up.
Wild.
So then it's a really good way, because for a record company, let's make them cartoon villains and for a second, and it might not be this bad at all, but like, how can I make maximum profit without fucking having to give it to the artist who made the music? Yeah, yeah. Well, if you're a shareholder in the company and you make the company bigger and you get bigger and make more profit by paying the musicians 2/5 of fuck all for what they make, that works well.
Yeah, it works really well.
So if as a muso you see that as the back end of Spotify, you start to think, like as we have this discussion, it brings it up for me again, because I was just cruising along before this discussion right now. Yeah, yeah. And just releasing on Spotify and forgot about any other alternative. But when I talk like this and get fired up, I realise, there's got to be a better way.
There's got to be a better way. And I think that the worse it gets, the good thing is that the more desire there will be. I don't think it's a hard conversation to convince artists right now.
No.
You're pointing all of your people to this platform. Yeah. And you're getting 15,000 streams in 2 weeks, and then you're getting $30 for it.
And also, when you point all your people to that platform, what does that platform do for you? It says straight away, here's another act you'll like.
Yep, exactly.
You used to, in the days of the physical product, it's so different. Yeah. It goes, they buy the physical product and all they do is put that CD on, because Sunny, who's 16, my daughter, she's we for Christmas gave her some CDs which she wanted.
Yeah.
And she wants CDs because she knows that that'll force her to get into track 13.
That's cool.
And she loves
Wait,
that
I'm just
vibe.
look-
Oh yeah, the physical product.
Yeah.
She gets it so she hears the other. She's forced to listen to the other tracks on there, and we can all identify with that.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
People used to wear a tape out in the days of tapes in their car. Like, they wear the tape out, listening to something over and over again. So the physical product used to make you more of a fan of the act. Imagine if that physical product, you bought it, but you could only buy it as a best of, and like, so
Yeah,
so the
true.
reason you bought it was for Hein, but then you're hearing Ash and you're hearing all this other stuff
Yeah.
every single time. Like, this platform is an engine that suggests other songs.
Yeah, yeah.
So you benefit from that as well as an artist.
Yeah, from the
But-
radio element of it.
Yeah, but
It is radio now.
Yeah, it is just
And
radio.
they
It's
call
become-
it radio.
Yeah, it's
like
funny.
Spotify literally has, like, you see in your stats for the song, you know, like playlist, that amount of streams, people actually going on your profile, that amount
Radio.
of streams.
Yeah,
Radio.
yeah.
When Spotify places your song after someone else's song. And if you talk to almost anybody now and you're like, how do you discover new music?
Yeah, radio.
On Spotify.
Yeah.
Not on the radio.
Yeah, on Spotify radio.
Yeah.
And the algorithm's good. It does suggest things. And, I mean, it does happen that people discover new acts and they love it and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But if you're doing the work
Yeah.
to grab people and get them to listen to your music, you also... I'm just realising this when I say it.
Yeah.
You're also losing those people to the whole world of music.
Yeah.
As they suggest other things.
Yeah.
Like, they don't just stay listening to your track.
Yeah.
Their attention goes. And they might listen to your track over and over again, but they might not. Whereas if you had given them a physical
Yeah,
thing,
they're
they
gonna-
would
they're
listen
gonna
to
go
it
back.
over and over again, and they'd probably become more of a hardcore fan than they would these days in the streaming world.
And I feel like even that in itself would also make you as an artist feel so much more passionate about creating something magic. Because you're like, people are going to come back to this over and over
And
again.
spin it. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so your passion to make some amazing work of art,
Yeah. Oh, totally.
it grows. You know what I mean?
100%.
And this is the whole thing about where the incentive is right now.
Yeah.
The incentive is now to be narcissistic and to want to be famous.
yeah.
Because
it's
if
more
you want to
mainstream.
make an actual sustainable living off the regular way things are, you got to be big a lot of the time in that world, not your world of like live music, but like,
Yeah, you got to be, like, getting millions and millions of streams.
yeah.
Yeah, like to make a wage out of it.
Yeah.
What like to make
And to
a
pay all
normal-
your expenses, you know, to run an actual, you know, to be able to keep making the records, invest in that, make it all back and live.
Do you have a stat, like, say you wanted to sit at home and you wanted to be an artist who was a recording artist and you wanted to make a living from it, like, let's say you had a couple of kids and whatever, you wanted to make $100,000 a year.
Profit.
Yeah, profit. What
Yeah.
is it? How many streams do you need for well,
Oh.
just raw $100,000 a year? Have you ever done that? Or
No, I've never done that, but I think like it would be so many. Plus the pipeline effect of, you know, you do get paid on the publishing side as well,
yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're going to see some money coming through Amcos or whoever your publisher is. But it's a lot. It's like 400, like $1 million monthlies, I think is where you're actually cruising.
yeah, because then that's $1,000 a week,
Yeah.
and $1 million monthlies is hard to get to.
It really actually is for most of us.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, and then that also doesn't even reflect to an active audience. Like I know artists that have got 1 million monthly listeners and it's not connecting.
No, and yeah,
You know,
it's if you had, yeah, it's a tough one. So what about this platform? Are there good stories from this platform, or is it just new?
great stories. So
Right.
they've been doing it for the last year and a half, and I'm having like meetings with them once a week at the moment.
Are they in Australia?
No, he's in, the main guy's in the UK, they're in America. He's super passionate. They're all super passionate, genuine, and the whole idea is to make their engaged community, to give them somewhere to go to actually properly nurture the artist, and for the artist to give them, you know, something before everyone else, and the first notice of shows, and this and that. And they only take 10% of the whole thing to keep covering the costs of the business.
Yeah.
90% goes to the artist.
Right.
It's amazing. And the structure of it, the way that I've seen it working so far is amazing. So I'm going to do it.
Wow, that's awesome.
In February for the rest of the songs. I'm just going to put it out there, and I'm going to use my socials in the same way that I have been to talk about it. And to just be like, you know, once again, not ripping on Spotify, it definitely has its place, but, you know, even if you pointed 100 of your people that actually went and put $1 in, it's $100. If all of them streamed, how many streams would they all need to, 100 people, listen to your music to make $100? It's a lot.
Yeah. A hell of a lot.
And so why not give something like this a shot? That's how I feel right now. Where I'm at, I'm like, I got nothing to lose, really, when I look at it like that.
Yeah.
I'm still going to honour Spotify and the regular DSPs, but I'm interested in growing a tighter community now and serving them with my art.
So the idea of this is also that, yeah, by doing this, you're not pissing off Spotify and all of those and having to make the big shift.
Yeah. But still giving an
Somebody
actual
something.
place for people to support you in a better way.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
makes a lot
not
of sense.
it's not a donation vibe. It's like you pay what you want to get this for the record, you know? So see how it goes.
Yeah, I reckon that's cool. And if not that, something else.
Yeah.
I feel like only thing is the way tech works is it's all about the user.
Yeah.
So it's not all about the artist. It maybe never will be, but like if you can make it all about the user in a way that they get a benefit and they can help the artist, then I think a lot of people will do that, but it has to be easy.
Yeah. Stand by.
Yeah.
Great chat.